You know that feeling when you make a choice and then immediately your mind starts spinning with doubt, wondering if you picked the wrong option. But what if the way out of that loop is actually simpler and gentler than you think? Today we are going to talk about one specific shift that can help you stop second-guessing yourself when making decisions. This matters because that constant mental back and forth drains your energy and steals the peace you could be feeling right now. When you practice this shift consistently, you start to trust your choices more and feel a quiet confidence instead of that nagging uncertainty. The key is understanding that second-guessing is often a sign you are looking for perfect certainty, which doesn't exist, rather than a sign you made a wrong call. In this video, I will walk you through a calm, step-by-step way to recognize that pattern and gently redirect it. So let's start by looking at what really happens in your mind when that doubt creeps in. Your MH scene. 1. What this topic means in real life. Second-guessing yourself is that nagging voice that keeps asking, "Are you sure?" long after you've made a choice. It's the mental loop where you replay a decision over and over, hoping to find a hidden flaw. In real life, this shows up when you pick a restaurant, choose a job, or even decide what time to leave for an appointment. You might spend 20 minutes deciding whether to send an email, then another 20 minutes regretting the wording. The truth is, second-guessing isn't about being careful. It's about being stuck in a cycle of doubt that drains your energy. Understanding what this really feels like helps you recognize it sooner, without judging yourself for it. The simple takeaway here is that second-guessing is a habit your mind has learned, not a sign that you're broken. With that clear picture, let's move into why this habit matters so much for your everyday well-being. Scene 2. Why this matters so much for everyday well-being. When you constantly second-guess yourself, it robs you of the peace that comes from trusting your own mind. This matters because your mental energy is a limited resource, and every round of doubt eats away at it. Think of it like a slow leak in a tire. You might not notice at first, but eventually you'll be running on empty. Over time, that leak affects your sleep, your mood, and your willingness to try anything new. A common pitfall is thinking that more analysis will lead to better decisions, when it often just leads to more fatigue. The benefit of addressing this is that you free up mental space for things that truly deserve your attention. The takeaway is simple. Every moment you spend doubting a finished decision is a moment you could have spent living. Now, let's look at what life actually looks like when this habit is running the show. Scene 3. What life looks like when this is missing. Imagine a day where you make a choice and then simply move forward without looking back. When second-guessing is missing, you feel a lightness in your chest after deciding, instead of a knot of worry. You'd send that email, pick a color for the wall, or commit to a plan without running through a dozen alternate scenarios. Of course, it doesn't mean you never make mistakes, it just means you don't punish yourself for them before they even happen. The realistic truth is that a life without constant second-guessing still includes uncertainty, but it doesn't let uncertainty paralyze you. The relief here is that you regain the ability to trust your past self, even when the future is unknown. The takeaway is that this isn't about being fearless, it's about making fear a smaller voice in the room. So what gets in the way of this? Let's explore the common patterns that block this natural confidence. Scene 4. The common habits, patterns, or beliefs that block this. One of the biggest blocks is the belief that you must have perfect information before you can decide. This pattern shows up as endless research, asking everyone for opinions, or waiting for a sign that never comes. Another habit is replaying past decisions that didn't go well, as if that proves you can't trust yourself now. A common misunderstanding is thinking that second-guessing is a sign of intelligence, when really, it's just fear dressed up as analysis. The truth is, these patterns are learned coping mechanisms that once protected you from perceived danger, but now they just keep you stuck. The helpful insight is that recognizing these patterns gives you the power to choose a different response. The takeaway is straightforward. Your brain's default is to seek certainty, but certainty isn't required for a good decision. With that awareness, we can shift the very first mindset that will start to loosen this grip. Scene 5. The first mindset shift the viewer needs to make. The first mindset shift is to see a decision not as a final verdict, but as an experiment. This matters because experiments have no right answer. They only have outcomes you can learn from. Instead of asking, "Is this the perfect choice?" you start asking, "What can I learn from this choice?" Practically, this means you give yourself permission to adjust later, rather than demanding that every choice be perfect right now. A realistic truth is that this shift feels uncomfortable at first, because your brain is used to seeking guarantees. The benefit is that you stop treating decisions like life or death traps and start treating them like ordinary forks in the road. The takeaway here is simple. You don't need to get it right, you only need to get it going. Once you've made that mental switch, here's the first practical step to put it into action. Scene 6. The first practical step to begin changing this. The first practical step is to set a simple time limit for every decision you face today. This works because a time limit forces your brain to make a call before it can spiral into overthinking. For small choices, give yourself 30 seconds. For medium ones, 5 minutes. For big ones, maybe an hour at most. The key is that once the timer goes off, you commit to your choice without reopening the mental door. A realistic pitfall is that you'll want to give yourself just one more minute, but that minute is where the second guessing lives. The relief comes from realizing that a good enough decision made on time is far better than a perfect decision made too late. The takeaway from this step is that you are training your brain to trust its first reasonable answer. Once you've tried this for a day or two, you'll be ready to explore how to handle the bigger decisions that feel heavier. Let's paint a picture of what it actually looks like when second guessing starts to loosen its grip on your daily decisions. This matters because most people think change requires big dramatic shifts, but real progress happens in the small boring moments. Imagine you're choosing between two brands of toothpaste at the store, and instead of standing there for 5 minutes weighing every option, you pick one and move on. Later, when you're deciding whether to reply to a text an hour later, you just send a quick answer instead of overthinking the perfect wording. The truth is, your brain will still try to pull you back into doubt, but you'll notice it sooner and decide not to follow the thought. The relief comes from realizing that most decisions don't have life or death consequences, and even the ones that do can be handled step by step. A simple takeaway is to practice noticing when you're about to spiral and just choose action over perfect analysis. This everyday shift sets the stage for a simple daily practice that can strengthen your decision-making muscle even more. One of the most effective daily practices to stop second guessing is something called the 2-minute decision rule. This technique matters because it trains your brain to accept quick choices without overthinking, building confidence over time. The idea is simple. For any decision that takes 2 minutes or less to execute, you make it immediately and without deliberation. For example, choosing a podcast episode, picking an outfit, or deciding what to eat for a snack can all be done in under 2 minutes. A realistic truth is that you'll sometimes feel the urge to reconsider even after you've chosen, but the rule asks you to commit and move forward anyway. The benefit is that each small win reinforces the belief that you don't need hours of analysis to make good choices. Write down a short list of quick decisions you face daily and commit to using the 2-minute rule for them starting tomorrow. Once this habit feels natural, you'll be ready to spot a common mistake that often derails people who try to change their decision-making. A very common mistake is trying to eliminate second-guessing completely instead of just reducing its power over you. This misunderstanding matters because it sets an impossible standard that leads to frustration and giving up. The truth is, second-guessing is a natural brain function that helps you avoid genuine risks, so you can't shut it off entirely. A practical example is when you still feel a flicker of doubt after choosing a restaurant, and you immediately think you failed at your new approach. The pitfall here is believing that any hesitation means you're back to square one, when in reality, it's just a normal thought that doesn't have to dictate your action. The helpful insight is that progress isn't about silence in your mind, it's about choosing to act despite the noise. So instead of aiming for zero doubt, aim for a 5-second pause before you decide to override your doubt and keep moving. Learning to accept residual doubt makes the whole process feel more realistic and less overwhelming, which leads right into how to keep this change sustainable. If any part of today's video really clicked with you, I'd love to hear about it. Maybe there was one idea that felt especially useful or a moment that made you think, I can actually do that. Feel free to drop a comment and share what small step you want to try this week. Also, if you haven't already, hitting the like button helps others who struggle with second guessing find this kind of support too. And if you want to keep learning simple ways to trust your choices, subscribing means you will not miss the next video. Even just pausing to notice your own pattern today is a win. So take a moment to reflect and then keep watching if you're up for more gentle guidance. Thanks for being part of this conversation. To make this change feel realistic, you have to stop treating every decision like it requires the same amount of mental energy. This distinction matters because overwhelm comes from using your full decision-making power on trivial things. Think of your mental energy like a battery and use a simple system. Low-stakes choices get low effort, medium ones get medium effort, and high-stakes ones get your full attention. For example, picking a movie to watch tonight is low stakes, so you allow yourself to decide in under a minute without guilt. A realistic truth is that you'll sometimes misjudge a decision's importance, but that's okay because you can always adjust next time. The relief here is that most of your daily decisions are low stakes, so you free up energy for the few that truly matter. A practical takeaway is to quickly label each decision with a number from 1 to 3 before you even start thinking about it. Once you lower the pressure this way, you'll start to notice real emotional and mental shifts in how you feel about decision-making. As you practice these techniques, the first emotional change you might notice is a quiet sense of relief where anxiety used to live. This shift matters because it shows that your brain is learning that uncertainty doesn't always mean danger. You start to feel lighter, like you've unloaded a backpack full of rocks you didn't realize you were carrying. Mentally, you find yourself trusting your first instincts more often because you've seen that they usually work out fine. A realistic truth is that some decisions will still nag at you afterward, but that nagging lasts seconds instead of hours. The benefit is a growing confidence that you can handle whatever happens, even if your choice wasn't perfect. A simple way to notice this is to check in with yourself at the end of the day and see if you felt less mental exhaustion. That feeling of ease is what you want to protect, which brings up the question of how to keep momentum going when life gets busy. When life gets busy, the easiest thing is to fall back into old second-guessing habits because they feel familiar and safe. This matters because consistency, not perfection, is what keeps the change lasting through hectic weeks. A practical approach is to identify your anchor decision for the day, the one choice you commit to making quickly no matter what. For example, you might decide that every morning you'll choose your outfit in 30 seconds, even if everything else feels chaotic. A A realistic truth is that some days you'll forget or slip, but that doesn't erase the progress you've already made. The insight here is that momentum comes from one small win per day, not from doing everything right all the time. Write your anchor decision on a sticky note and put it somewhere you'll see it, like your bathroom mirror or phone lock screen. If you can protect just that one moment of decisive action each day, you'll keep the door open for more change to build naturally from here into the next part of this process. As this habit of trusting your decisions grows, you'll start to notice small but real changes in your day-to-day life. This matters because those small changes add up to a completely different way of moving through your hours. You stop wasting mental energy going back and forth on little things, and that frees up focus for what really matters. Over weeks, you might find yourself making a choice at work in half the time it used to take, without the usual knot in your stomach. At first, the shift can feel almost invisible because the relief is quiet. You just notice you're not tired in the same way by the end of the day. You also start to trust your gut more because every time you follow through, you see that the world didn't fall apart. Over months, this becomes the new normal. You make a call, you move on, and you don't drag the weight of every what if behind you. But even with all that progress, there will still be moments where old patterns try to sneak back in, which is exactly what we'll look at next. One realistic challenge is that a big decision, like a job change or a relationship choice, can trigger a full relapse into second guessing. This matters because it's easy to think you've fixed the habit, but high-stakes moments test everything you've practiced. When the pressure is on, your brain might revert to scanning for every possible downside, trying to find a perfect option that doesn't exist. You might wake up at 3 a.m., replaying the conversation, or redoing the numbers in your head, feeling like you're back at square one. That's not a sign of failure, it's just the way your mind tries to protect you from risk, especially when the outcome really matters. The insight here is that a setback doesn't erase your progress. It just shows you where your boundary of trust still needs reinforcing. When that happens, the best move is not to fight the doubt, but to recognize it as an old habit knocking, not a command you have to obey. And when you do slip, there's a specific way to get back on track without losing everything you've built. You know, one of the best ways to build on today's topic is to have a little extra support waiting for you. That's one reason I love www.happylifetribe.com. There you'll find practical ideas and gentle encouragement that make sense for anyone trying to live with more calm and clarity. It's not about quick fixes, just real, everyday tips for feeling less stuck and more grounded when decisions come up. The site also offers calm living inspiration and mindful lifestyle guidance that can help you keep moving forward without pressure. So if you're looking for a next step that feels right, that's a good place to explore. You can come back to it whenever you need a reset or a reminder that you're not alone in this. No rush, just a helpful little resource to have in your back pocket. When you catch yourself second-guessing again, the first step is to pause and name exactly what you're feeling without judging yourself for it. This matters because shame or frustration can push you deeper into the loop, while simple acknowledgement gives you room to breathe. Say to yourself, I am doubting this choice right now, and that is okay. I don't have to act on the doubt. Then, instead of reopening the decision, remind yourself of one reason you made it in the first place. Just one, not a whole list. The realistic truth is that you might still feel uneasy for a little while, and that's fine. The goal is not to feel certain, but to stay with your choice despite the discomfort. Recovering quickly also means letting go of the need to make up for lost time. By overanalyzing, you just step back into the decision as it stands. A simple, practical takeaway is to have a one-sentence mantra ready, like, I chose this based on what I knew then, and I trust that. Once you get comfortable with that recovery step, you'll see this practice isn't just for one kind of person. It helps almost anyone, but some people benefit even more. This approach helps most people who carry a quiet but constant sense of uncertainty, especially when making decisions that affect their own life or the lives of others. It matters because many of us were raised to believe that careful doubt is responsible, but at a certain point, it becomes a cage. If you're someone who tends to ask everyone's opinion before choosing, or who feels guilty after making a call that didn't turn out perfectly, this is for you. It also helps people in roles where decisions have real weight, parents, managers, caregivers, or anyone balancing competing needs. The honest challenge is that if you have a history of being blamed for wrong choices, the habit of second-guessing feels like protection, so letting go of it can feel unsafe at first. But the benefit is that as you practice, you stop outsourcing your confidence to external approval, and you start building your own quiet trust. No matter who you are, the core skill is the same, choosing with what you have, then letting the choice stand without endless revision. So if this sounds like something you want to start today, there's a very grounded way to take that first small step. To start right now, pick one small decision you've been going back and forth on, something like what time to run an errand or which email to reply to first. This matters because starting small lowers the fear of messing up, so you actually follow through. Give yourself exactly 3 minutes to decide, and once the time is up, write down your choice on a piece of paper or in a note on your phone. Then, for the rest of the day, do not reconsider that choice, no matter how much your mind wants to revisit it. The realistic truth is that you might feel a little itchy or uncomfortable, but that sensation is just the old habit kicking, not a sign that you picked wrong. Notice that the world keeps turning and nothing catastrophic happens from sticking with a small decision. Tomorrow, do the same with a slightly bigger choice like which task to finish first at work or what to wear to a casual event. That one small practice is the seed of a much bigger change, and the reason it's worth repeating is what we'll close with now. The real reason this change matters is that every time you stop second-guessing, you send yourself a quiet message that your own judgment is enough. You stop treating your decisions as tests to be passed and start treating them as steps forward, even when they aren't perfect. Over time, this creates a kind of inner steadiness that no outside result can shake, because your confidence comes from the act of choosing, not from the outcome. You'll still make mistakes, we all do, but you'll stop turning every mistake into a reason to doubt your whole ability to decide. The honest truth is that this practice never ends. There will always be new decisions that feel heavy, but the skill of trusting yourself grows stronger the more you use it. And what's beautiful is that the peace you gain isn't about having all the answers. It's about being okay with not having them and moving anyway. So take that small step today and then another one tomorrow, and know that each time you choose and stay with your choice, you are building something that no one can take from you. This is not about being right all the time. It's about being free from the exhausting loop of never being sure, and that freedom is absolutely worth practicing. As we wrap up, I hope you feel a little more at ease with the idea of trusting your own choices. Remember, the small step you just learned about is something you can practice starting today. No need to be perfect. If this video helped you pause and think, please consider giving it a like and subscribing to Happy Life Tribe for more gentle guidance. Over at www.happylifetribe.com, you'll find a space full of encouragement, practical ideas, and support for building a calmer, more intentional life. It's a place where you can find calm living inspiration and mindful lifestyle tips that fit into real everyday moments. Whether you're working on decisions, stress, or just finding your footing, you don't have to figure it all out alone. So take a breath, thank yourself for showing up, and maybe try one small thing from today's video. Thank you for being here. I hope your next decision feels a little lighter and more your own.